I think I'm just sneaking into good afternoon now. So good afternoon, everybody. As the slide says, I'm Yvonne Birks. I'm a Professor of Applied Social Care, and I'm really delighted to have this opportunity to talk to you about an area that's been my focus for a number of years, social care for older people. Now, it's a far less visible area than healthcare, and unlike healthcare, we don't have a national care service that's free at the point of need. Social care is often means tested. It's an area people often don't come across until they experience it, and so it comes as a bit of a surprise sometimes. Now, my research has always been applied. It's based in the experiences of people who need and work in social care, but it's become an increasingly personal topic for me through the story of my own parents. And it's a story many of my research team and my friends, and I'm sure lots of people in the audience are also familiar with. So it's really easy to be gloomy about social care, but a desire to improve things is what drives our research effort at York. What gets us up in the morning is that we want to improve services and the way they're delivered and experienced. So for the most part, I want to focus on positive things and an exciting partnership that I'm going to talk about later. And we've been developing this with local authorities in Yorkshire and Humber, and we aim to do just that, improve the experience of services. But just before I do that, I'm going to visit the reality and perhaps dabble a little bit in the gloomy stuff for a couple of minutes. If it was all perfect, we wouldn't be doing the research. So I'm going to give you a few facts and figures about that. So it's fair to say that many people don't encounter social care services, but the longer you live, the more likely you are to need some social care support. And we are living longer. Often with complex combinations of conditions, including dementia. The demand for social care has gone up 22% since 2015. And in 2022, nearly 2 million requests for adult social care support were made, with a total expenditure of £27 billion. And that's just the care that's provided by the state. As I mentioned, a lot of people pay for their own social care when they get older. And recent estimates are that about 50% of people over 65 will spend up to £20,000 on care. And 1 in 7 of those people will spend up to or more than £100,000 on care. The average cost of a care home is about £800 a week. It's often a lot more. And the average cost of care at home is about £20 to £25 an hour. So it's not a cost many of us plan for or really care to think about, if we're honest. We don't think about it in the same way as pensions. And it's understandable perhaps that we don't want to think about perhaps becoming a bit frailer or losing independence. It's not a very palatable thing to have to think about. But if you take one message away from this talk, think about it. Think what you might want for your social care in the future. Now, COVID-19 really shone a light on care homes, but lots of people receive care in their own homes as well, so it's not all about care homes. And prior to COVID, the government introduced this idea of a care cap, where lifetime care costs would stop at a ceiling of £86,000. Now, the cap has yet to be implemented. We haven't seen that yet. And it's still a huge sum of money to contemplate. And the most likely beneficiaries will be the wealthiest in society. So even if you've got £150,000 squirreled away somewhere, if you have to spend 86,000 of that, you've still not got an awful lot left. And there are many high-profile voices who increasingly suggest that our social care system is broken. And then there are certainly a lot of problems with it that go way beyond costs, really. So we know that older people only become visible when they need care. So we're poor on prevention and delaying the need for more intensive social care support. There are high levels of unmet and undermet care needs that we don't really understand properly. Now, costs might be part of that, but it's also likely that older people are reluctant to admit that they're struggling, they're fearful of having to leave their homes or losing their independence. Social care for older people's got a bit of an image problem. Even when people know they need social care, they want to access it, there are delays in the system, it's seen as confusing, it's stressful, it's inconsistent, it's unclear. I've experienced all of that with my own parents. And we're over-reliant on high levels of unpaid care. And in the case of older people, often these carers are elderly themselves. It sometimes can be difficult to tell what the difference is, who's caring for who. And the financial stability of the people who provide care in those businesses is pretty precarious, actually. Businesses open and close all the time. And if you've invested a great deal of time, as most families do, in finding care, organising care, funding care, if that has to change, it's really distressing for the older person who's being cared for, but also the family as well, who've spent a lot of time on this. There are huge workforce pressures, and estimates put us at about 150,000 unfilled vacancies in the care sector at any time. And then this has added effects for older people and their families, but also big impacts on health services. So if people aren't getting good social care that they need, they often end up in hospital, then they can't get out of hospital because we can't find proper places for them to be or provide care packages. So I think social care is facing a crisis. I think it's probably been facing a crisis for some considerable time. But for me, part of the solution is going to be research. And the more we understand who uses social care, how they use it, why they need it, and why things don't work as they should, the more likely we are to be able to address this with a strong policy solution, efficient use of existing and new resources, and importantly, how to do things differently where we need to. So Adele felt very strongly about the National Health Service, but I still think social care is very much the poor cousin of health services. And when it comes to research funding, it certainly is. When you consider the amount of money that's invested in healthcare research, which is not enough, it's never enough. Taxpayers' money, private sector money, charities, it's just a completely different level in social care. And in adult social care, we've tended to see small pools of researchers doing small-scale research because there's been so little funding. But it's not the way to change things. But things are changing, and they're changing really fast. So we're seeing growing investment in funding streams, specifically looking at social care questions, greater emphasis on national learning, and creating a strong evidence base for social care. But funding's only part of the picture. And you need teams who know how to do research, and that really lags behind the offer that the government is making in terms of research. So in social care, the idea of evidence-based or informed practice is still quite new. Healthcare is more familiar and comfortable with that. And if I'm honest, there's a bit of suspicion around academic research in social care, and they have more of a preference for experiential knowledge, practice wisdom, if you like, and that's really important. Those kinds of knowledge are really important, but it doesn't really provide perhaps a more systematic, scaled-up, independent lens that research can offer. There's a lack of skills and confidence around accessing research, taking part in it, using it, because most of the people who work in social care haven't got degrees, they haven't had a research training. And so the relationships between academics and practice are just not as well developed or as trusting as they need to be for us to do good research. So we've got to build capacity and trust if we're going to conduct good research and answer important questions in multidisciplinary teams that consist of academics, people that work in practice, and people who use services. So one of the reasons that I work in York is because we've got a really strong history in the sort of social change and social justice research that makes a difference. It's a great place to lead social care research from, and it has been for a very long time. Our current work is very applied. We do practice-facing work. It's always developed with people who work in services and people who use services, and we address things that are important that come from practice. So there's just some brief examples here of things that we do. So I'm going to try and use this pointy thing now. Oh, look. Just this thing that I'm pointing at here is an app for social care providers. And what that does is they can send it out really quickly, just through mobile phones, to people who are thinking about applying for a job in care. And that allows them to make a quick assessment of people, kind of looking at some scenarios that they give them, and they make a judgment about how they would behave in that scenario. So they can very quickly assess if they're the kind of people who have the sorts of values they might want to attract. That's been really popular, really well received. We've also got a course here, the HOPES course, and that's about helping people, older people, sometimes people who have mental health conditions or dementia or for other reasons, find it very hard to trust the services. They don't engage with them very well, and this is a course that helps support people who are trying to work with those people so they can make better use of their social care. And then also the Care Confidence website there, that was developed on the back of quite a lot of work we've done with self-funding populations who we know find it really difficult to think about what they might need and what they want to receive and where they want to receive it and how they might pay for it. And what they tell us is that at the start of their care journey, when they're still looking around, they often feel really isolated, really frightened, and this is just early step stuff to try and help them think through where they might want to go next. But I hope that demonstrates how practical our work is. And most of our work is funded by the National Institutes for Health and Care Research. And importantly, we're members of a small group of universities who collaborate to form the School for Social Care Research. And York was a founding member of the school in 2009, and alongside only 2 other institutions, we've been members of that ever since it started, and we continue to be members of that. And finally, I just wanted to say that, you know, every year the funder gives out about 20 senior appointments. So these are appointments in health and social care research, and we've always had consistent success in York. We've got lots of senior investigators in York, and this year 2 more fantastic colleagues in York were recognised for their world-leading contributions in mental health and in clinical trials, but we were really delighted to have our leadership in social care recognised, and even more delighted that we were one of only 2 awards that have ever been made to social care. And so, apart from sounding a bit boasty, I'm telling you this because it's the backdrop to the partnership that we are co-creating to support social care research in our region and to build capacity to support the delivery of services in an evidence-based way for older people. We're good at research in York, but we need to do better in our relationships with practice. We won't have an impact if we don't have those good relationships, and that's what the Curiosity Partnership is all about. So in 2020, we received the welcome news that we'd got 1.3 million from the funder to do this. We're developing a new research partnership with 4 regional local authorities, and the Curiosity Partnership was born. It had a hideous long name before that, but we've rechristened it, and we're very happy with the Curiosity Partnership. So over the next few years, we're developing and evaluating this partnership, and we want to support and empower staff in social care to be able to understand, produce, use research, and that will inform their offer to older people. And we want to have a better understanding of what the barriers are to better engagement with research and explore how we can overcome those. But crucially, what we're doing is working with our practice colleagues, not doing stuff to them. We're not the only one of these partnerships. There are 6 across England, and the broad aims are the same. But we're all working in slightly different ways. We're trying slightly different things with a slightly different focus. But we're bringing all of this learning together nationally at the end to think about what information we can give to the funder so that they'll be able to sustain these strong teams of researchers that will need to keep up the momentum. You can't just throw money at it. You have to have people who can work together to do this. So I've highlighted the challenges that the sector face over there. This is just a little infographic of what the Curiosity Partnership does. We're working with York, North Yorkshire, Hull and Doncaster, but we're very happy to work with anyone regionally. At the moment it's a 4-year project, and we've got 4 main strands of work. So early work was priority setting. It's a big area. We can't do everything all at once, so we needed to set some priorities that everyone could sign up to. And these are prevention, workforce, isolation, and engagement and place. And we're developing a social care academy, which is already supporting training, skill and confidence development, and it's really helping staff to access the training offers that are available to them and help them with research skills. There's PhD funding available, and we're supporting mentoring relationships as well. And we've already seen some fantastic successes in local staff being awarded development funding from the National Institutes for Care and Research schemes that are available to them. There's lots of opportunities, but the sector wasn't really familiar with the funder, and so they weren't really able to, they sort of struggled to demonstrate the value of this to their own organisations, but also put together good applications that meant they got the funding. So we've seen awards at all levels. We've got people who've got a very prestigious doctoral fellowship. We've got people who are now part of teams that are applying for grants, and we're supporting staff to attend research conferences and present their work. We're also building communities of practice around our priorities, so staff come together in person sometimes, but virtually as well, and they discuss challenges, they collate evidence to inform solutions within practice, and they're hosting external speakers, and they're really engaging with the research world. So the volume of people being part of conversations about research is growing, and that's a fantastic start. And we're embedding research champions who are trusted in these organisations, and we support them to raise the profile of research, promote the value of research, and help people navigate opportunities. And they also help university staff navigate their way around local authorities, because we need to try and make these links with people who want to collaborate and are interested in research. So we're all learning something. Now, underpinning it all, we're developing this online platform which allows us to work nationally and regionally, and keeps the community together and maintains the links. So it hosts the academy, there's a lot on there, and we're really proud of what we've achieved to date. We know the sector recognises the value of this work, and when we see everyone sort of buzzing with enthusiasm about our annual meeting, we know this is something we recommit to every year, all of us working together to improve services for older people. These are the partners that we're working with, and I just wanted to very briefly recognise the efforts of the team that I work with in York and more broadly, and also thanks to the funder as well. Thank you very much for coming to hear about this.